Welcome back into the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Parkside Cabin Rentals. The best vacation options for you and your family this summer, or with Parkside Cabin Rentals. The Ogle family know what they're doing when it comes to hospitality in Sevier County, I promise you that. Best options for UT football weekends this fall. New cabins, new locations for you to choose from. And as always, free parking when you go into downtown Gatlinburg and you're staying at Parkside Cabin Rentals. ParksideCabinRentals.com. You can check out all the floor plans to all their mini cabins right there on the website. Do so today, after the show, but do it today. All right, mention this. A&M had long tried to join this league, and when the SEC went looking to expand its cable footprint and make millions for its member schools, A&M jumped, left everything they had known to come over here. But it wasn't all just goody-goody. They came over here to get away from Texas. They wanted to be able to say in the state of Texas to recruits, if you want to play in the big boy league, if you want to go to the pros, A&M is the place to go. Texas scoffed. Now Texas is saying, well, we kind of need to do that too. And A&M's like, well, wait a second. We came over here. There was a gentleman's agreement. Mike Slive, you've always had this, that you have veto power if we try and bring in someone from your state. Mike Slive told us that. Arbo and Lofton, the president from 10 years ago, says that this was all discussed. And now the SEC is saying, yeah, the bylaws say 75%, so you can take your gentleman's agreement and spend. My question is A&M being a crybaby, as a lot of fans seem to think on social media, which I'd love to see what would happen if this were Memphis coming into the league. Texas A&M being a crybaby. Is the SEC making a mistake in kind of for the first time ever giving up that whole esprit de corps thing where everybody has to be unanimous on expansion, realignment, setting the divisions? They've always played nice. This is the first time I can remember a school just sit down and take it. Who's at fault here, A&M or the SEC? Or either, or both?
I mean, you can't really categorize this as anything other than a betrayal, like pure betrayal on the part of the SEC.
Right.
And so you can't really blame A&M for being angry. I mean, it's been really an ideal, wonderful 10 years for Texas A&M. It's been everything that they hoped that it would be. They've built their program up. They were on the precipice of the playoff last year. They got another team this year. It looks like they got a playoff. They got their $75 million national championship winning coach. And then here comes Texas. It's just the worst possible timing, worst case scenario. And then the fact that it's not so much that it's happening, but that they're kicking and screaming, and there's just nothing they can do about it. And everybody's kind of just, it's like watching like a 3-year-old throw a tantrum in a store. It's like, well, I feel bad for him, but I got to go do my thing, and that's what the rest of the SEC seems to be doing.
Ryan, your thoughts on this?
I think
is this A&M's problem or SEC's problem?
I think this is the SEC not acting in everyone's interest, and like you said, veering from what they've done historically, and that's not a good thing in this case. Like David said, I think it's nothing but a betrayal to Texas A&M. A&M's whole motivation for going to the SEC in the first place, as we've discussed before, was getting away from Texas. And now here, less than 10 years later, we're seeing them go back on that. So we'll talk about some of the other ramifications in a minute for Texas A&M. But yeah, it's a big deal, and I think the SEC is messing up in this case.
Well, let me go ahead and ask you about that, because it's not like A&M's SEC card is going to be revoked. They can still use that to recruit. Their recruiting isn't all going to dry up. But that was a pretty big chip that they used it well. It did help them. There's no question. How big of a hurt is this for Oklahoma, who recruits Texas, and Texas to come in and say, hey, you want to play in the SEC? We can get you there. We can get you there too.
Hurts quite a bit, and honestly, I think Oklahoma is part of that too. Oklahoma was one of those schools they had to go against in recruiting all the time. They had that to sell against them, but definitely in-state, it was a difference maker for them. They could go to players and say, hey, look, we've got a bigger spotlight in the SEC, better league, all this stuff to sell. That now they no longer have that advantage over Texas. I think Texas is sort of admitting with making this move, they need that because it had worked for Texas A&M. I think they're saying the move to the SEC, sure, it's about money too, but on the football side, if this had been working better for Texas in recent years, would they be making this move? I'm not so sure. Texas has taken a hit a little bit because of Texas A&M getting better, and that's a long-term concern for Texas. So, yeah, I think this is a huge deal, and in recruiting, it evens the playing field for those two.
Josh, I wonder, and we'll never know, but I'm going to get your opinion here. Mike Slive was a tremendous commissioner, tremendous. Much like Doug Dickey was a tremendous athletic director here. Nobody likes those guys, but they were excellent. Mike Slive did a fantastic job, and one of the things he did was get everybody on the same page. I wonder if Mike Slive were still alive and still the SEC commissioner, if the SEC would be going back on a promise that they had made to Texas A&M 10 years ago. I have my doubts. What do you think? Do you think he just, hey, business first, or do you think he would be going down this road?
Well, I have my doubts, but I do wonder because while A&M didn't come to the SEC just for money, the SEC brought A&M for money, in for money, right? So how do we know that 10 years ago they didn't say, okay, we can do this now, and maybe this will open up more opportunities down the line to where if Texas comes back and wants to do something again, or if Texas is just on the move, that we can be that landing spot. So we'll never know, obviously, but that's why I come back to who's wrong here. It's bad form by the SEC, but maybe Texas A&M should have looked at the SEC and said, well, they want us for money. What if they want more money in the future? What could that mean?
Yeah, I think, Texas seemed to start this conversation, and I think it's came down to asking around the SEC for 10, 15, 20, we'll see whatever that money, that money is over the time. Are you okay with taking an 8-digit, boost to your thing, but A&M, the new guys, can be mad at you? I think everyone looked around and said, yeah, that's fine. I'm cool with that.
Yeah, they all just want the money.
Yeah.
Missouri and Arkansas ran from this school. Now they're like, okay, bring them back in if we get an extra million or two. Here's the thing that I think this is where Tennessee fans should perk up. And they're fans of every school. It was easier to get 10 schools to agree on something. Easier to get 12 than 14, easier to get 14 than 16. But if the league is now showing it's willing to just step on a member and tell you tough luck, if I'm Randy Boyd, that's not just going out the window. Hey, well, they won't do it to me. Yeah, they might. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they sure might. Everybody might. I think as it gets more and more for the dollars, it seems that the league is acting more and more like a business as opposed to a confederation of like-minded universities who will all be stronger if we all get in the boat together. Looks like that's out the window. And if I'm South Carolina and I don't want Clemson in here, I'm thinking what happens next, or Florida with Florida State, or whoever, or whatever. It doesn't just have to be that. If this leads to realignment and Tennessee gets shafted and sent to the SEC West somehow and fans scream, hey, scream all you like. The league doesn't care. And I can't remember that in this league before.
Checks are going to still keep coming, right? And,
yeah.
And that's the motivation for Greg Sankey, the league office. That's the motivation for the administrators at the schools, too. They know the checks are coming.
Wouldn't hurt to win some football games.
Yeah.
Just FYI.
Well, I was going to say, I think the other part of this is what happens after this. Once the move is made, how do the divisions fall? How does scheduling work? All of this could be a further move away from tradition that, to your point, is going to show people how different this is of a conference without Texas.
A perfect tease from Ryan Callahan. Because this week, I spent an insane amount of time with an Excel sheet trying to save rivalries. I went back. Well, let's talk about it in a second. I'll break down the perfect schedule. And don't forget, we're still going to talk about what this means for Tennessee later. Come on back on the Sports Wars.